From the entrepreneur's desk
to the industry front lines
and into real world operations.
I'm Aaron Cardell, joined by Kyle Hunter and Jake Hamilton, and we're here to take the pulse of real estate technology in just 20 minutes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to PropTech Pulse. Today, I'm very excited to have Craig McClelland with us today. Craig has done a lot of things in the industry. I think I met Craig, eight years ago, some at different industry events. It's been, kind of fun seeing that. I think, Craig, you were at Better Homes and Gardens at the time, but you've really done a lot in the industry, and there's a lot of changes going on right now, consolidations, all kinds of different rules coming out. And so a couple of weeks ago, we were at a conference, and you really gave a good talk on your perception of like kind of what's going on. So I think it's great for this audience to kind of get a little bit of background. Before we get started, if you just maybe touch on how you got here and what you've done in your past, and then we'll get into some topics.
Cool. No, absolutely. I love it. And I appreciate you inviting me on and have a little bit of fun and have a discussion, hopefully educate some people or give them some insight that they may not have, or perspective they didn't have prior to it. But that was the Jared James conference in Orlando, right? Like, I think, was I drunk when I got on stage? Like, I think may have been some drinking. Like, I don't know. But I have the perfect talk track from when I was on stage. But a little background on me. So I've been in the industry about 25 years. I had a small independent that I built and exited in 2007, joined Better Homes and Gardens Metro Brokers in 2008, helped scale that company and build it. We had about anywhere from 2,800 to 3,000 agents in the Atlanta market with about 28 offices. Whole loan mortgage, title insurance, all that good stuff. While I was there, had the opportunity of participating and leading the pivot of Zip Realty off the public market, where they ended up exiting to Realogy, and we were the powered by Zip model, that we were changing the dynamics of the model, and then took that money and actually invested in a company called OpCity in this space and helped scale OpCity, exited to Realtor.com, was heavily involved in .loop, had an exit called eTorch, and now I have about 15 companies, PropTech and FinTech companies that I have some ownership capacity in, a small unstructured angel that I have in Atlanta. When I left Better Homes and Gardens in 22, went to a company called Bayview, largest privately held MSR in the world, and got to participate in the secondary market and build a national brokerage company. So I got to see the dynamics of like what's going on in the secondary market. Why is brokerage so important to them? How does it play into like the facets of how these things work? And really opened my eyes from not just the real estate space or the PropTech space and like just all the different things going on. Currently am CSO over at a great startup called Raise. That's doing some really cool stuff in the industry, and kind of my full-time focus right now is I'm CSO over at Home Story, which is a deep relationship with mortgage partners and with banks in their lead source and their clientele. And I just recently opened bought into a firm, Local Realty. It's a local independent in Atlanta. My niece is actually running the day-to-day operations, but I'm the president of the firm. So. Yeah, that's kind of like did I miss anything? I covered all, got everything?
No, I think that's great. No, and I, obviously you've done a lot and you've seen it a lot from a lot of different areas. And I think what was valuable, there's been a couple major consolidations and changes to the market. So first, I'd like to touch on the Mr. Cooper, Rocket Redfin. I mean, that I think a lot of people that are maybe not as close as you are, and you having that experience both with being at Better Homes and Gardens, building out mortgage, understanding that side of it, but then also Bayview come with a different perspective and really a lot more understanding of some of the reasoning behind it and how it can potentially impact the residential side of the business, which is, kind of the side that we primarily play in.
Yeah. So I'll give you some stats just for the fun of it. Like we'll kind of like build a little bit of a picture, but the Rocket, Redfin, and Mr. Cooper acquisition is obviously ecosystem play. Many people have talked about why it's an ecosystem play and how that works, but I'll give you like a couple of things that are, they stick out in my mind. And one of them is that origination, which is what Rocket really was their target market, was they solved this problem that was origination. They were not the MSR, mortgage servicing rights portfolio. That's what Mr. Cooper is. And they weren't north of funnel on that. They were kind of in the middle. So what they would do is they'd originate deals and they would bucketize those mortgages and they'd sell the mortgages. They weren't a servicer. So like Bayview was a servicer and learned a lot about like where the money's at and how that functions. But one thing with originations that is so unique is that even today, less than 15% of consumers start their journey with origination with a digital process, which seems like it's not that big of a deal. But in real estate, 85% of consumers start their process with a digital process. So they start their journey of exploring homes through a digital process. The reason why that's important is because the mortgage industry has been working for decades to try to figure out how to pivot consumers to a digital experience. So if you partner with Redfin, just think of it this way. You've got consumers starting the process digitally, and it's easier to roll them into origination digitally. Here's the other thing, is the funnel has reorganized. And this is a lot of what, Zillow put all the data out public in 2000 or 2006 and, changed the dynamics of the consumer. There was a big push that happened in 19 through 22. And that was a lot of millennials came to the market. We had 78 million millennials came to the market. And actually, nobody talked about that because there was this thing that happened called COVID. But all of them bought houses. Well, this is what happened in 24. And 24 is that the people that were buying houses, 70% of them had a house to sell. So they're all move-ups. Well, what happened was when you have 70% of your buyers down funnel that are actually have a house to sell, 85% of them were actually using the same agent to list as they did to buy with, which means you had an influential party up funnel that was affecting your ability to penetrate at the buy level. Does that make sense? So if I'm an originator, here's two problems. One is my consumers none of them are digital. Even with everything that loanDepot and Rocket and everybody have done, it's a small fraction that are digitally starting their experience, which kind of blows your mind. The other thing is the fact that my consumers are developing a relationship with the real estate agents at the listing table, not at the buying table. So by the time they get to the buying table, there's an influential relationship that already exists. So how do I get to the listing table? How do I get there? So those two things were very important, saying, all right, we need to figure out how to get integrated into the real estate part of the transaction in a very immersive and very intelligent and very intentional way. And that was like Rocket goes, all right, well, we need to do that. Now, your question was about Mr. Cooper, not about Redfin. Now, the reason why it's important is because I got to increase my capture at the origination stage, and I have to lower my CAC, my customer acquisition cost, because I have to have a natural way of interacting with the consumer top of funnel. Now, here's the reason why. It's because once I originate them, the goal is I put them into this MSR, mortgage servicing rights portfolio, and that's really where I make my money. Fun stat is, it is the mortgage industry in the United States of America, the mortgage debt, not the equity in a house. So if your house is paid off, this doesn't count. But if you have $100,000 worth of mortgaged portion of your home, this counts in it. That represents $13 trillion across the U.S. market. Okay. Now that represents 70% of the entire debt, personally held debt in the U.S. Now, if you think that that is a big piece, the $13 trillion, it's only a fraction across the globe. Like globally, that's $289 trillion worth of value. So these MSRs, they're servicing they have a potential to service $13 trillion worth of money to service. That is not the value of the secondary market. That's just the value of what they're servicing. So you think of all the things they build around it to service it and all the revenue streams off it, right? The real estate industry entirely is like a $6 to $7 trillion market. Okay, like that. So for me to find a piece of a $13 trillion market to buy a $6 trillion market makes a lot of sense. So for me to buy a Redfin, to participate the consumer up funnel, to originate their loan, to push them into my MSR, to service them. And if I can service them for 5 to 7 years, right? Like this is where my model lies. This is where the revenue lies. Does that make sense? Like that's the picture.
Well, and then, it doesn't hurt with Redfin having a top 4 portal. They got a great portal. Their consumers are digital. They've already got the workflow. They've got a unique W-2 market of agents. They had 2,200 W-2 agents, and then they had about 10,000 partner agents. And they were able to refine their model and say, hey, now we've got, I think they have 24 or 2,600 W-2 agents. And the reason why that's really important too is this I think it's a 5-letter word, RESPA, in our industry that we have to be very careful about. When you're a W-2, then
Real Estate Settlement Services Act, right? So like CFPB has enforcement capabilities for RESPA. And if you have a W-2 agent and you have a W-2 loan officer, they fall under fair trade. And fair trade says that they can cross-sell products. And so it creates a different dynamic. Doesn't mean they're completely removed from any of the RESPA rules they have to abide by, but they're removed from about 80%. So you and I have baseball teams, okay, and we're gonna play against each other, and we have a set of rules, and those are the RESPA rules, right? But we have all 9-year-olds on the team, but I put a 25-year-old on the team, just one 25-year-old. It changes the dynamics of the game. And that's kind of how I look at this is like, yeah, they didn't get out of all of the RESPA rules, but they got a couple 19-year-olds on their team. So you better watch out. Like it's going to play different. Like ball is going to play different. Right.
Well, and I think it's a great analogy because I think, a lot of, again, in our industry, agents, gosh, how long did it take for them to make the changes in the buyer broker agreement or even understand it or even simple things like that? But then you start getting outside of their understanding, there's a big impact and there's a big play of getting that, consumer and that long-term consumer. And I think if we just kind of juxtapose that with the Compass Anywhere acquisition, I think similar goals, but coming at it from a different direction, almost from that real estate side. And, I feel like there's a battle, but I'd love to, have your thoughts on what that reason and how that plays in.
They all play together. And this is how they play together. This is the way that I think they play together. And like, my opinion is just an opinion. So like throw it in the garbage. I don't speak for any companies. So if you look at what Rocket did, Rocket is profiled on the public market, and the public market gives them a stamp of approval or a price. And they say, all right, well, your price today, because of what you're doing with your business model, the opportunity that's in front of you with the trajectory and the direction you're headed is $70, $80, $90 a share price. Okay. Well, the higher that share price goes, the more liquidity the company has to do more things. So they want to keep on increasing that. So Rocket says, hey, we're going to go over here and we're going to buy this brokerage company or we're buy this MSR and we're going to create this ecosystem. Well, all of a sudden they have more value, but this is what happens is they move their profile. So the profile went a little bit to the left when they did this, because now people look at them and they say they're not an origination company just because now they own the dynamic of real estate. They own the dynamic of the MSR. So the profile has moved to an ecosystem. Does that make sense? Yep. Well, there's a well-known company that was profiling behind them, and that was Zillow. Zillow was very close to their profile. If you looked at their earnings calls, they profile themselves very close to looking like a rocket because they want their shareholders to go, hey, they look more like a rocket than an anywhere. They look more like a rocket. So they're kind of leaning this direction, right? Well, when Rocket just kind of took off, so now Zillow's sitting here, right? Well, there's another company that is looking at their profile also. So you look at like a Compass says, hey, if we actually buy anywhere and we own a large portion of the data, we become more of a data company. Who's a data company? Well, Zillow's a data company. So if I can take my $8 shares and I can move a little bit closer to a Zillow share price, which is $79. Let's just say I double my share price. I've got a lot of money and liquidity. So if I need to pay off, let's say a debt carry, I can pay off my debt carry, right? If I pick up Apollo's debt, right? There's a lot of things you can do in the public market when you adjust your profile. And that's what this is about. Like Rocket is adjusting their profile. They're creating an ecosystem. They're becoming more of an ecosystem and less of an originator, right? Zillow has to figure out, like, are they going to move that direction? Are they going to move another direction? Like, what are they going to do to adjust their profile? Because right now they have a profile of being Zillow, right? Like, I'm being this data play. Like Compass is like, hey, if we combine like these couple of entities and we have a mass market share, then can we adjust our profile because we have a different dynamic to our business, right? We added this new dynamic, which is this data set. Like now we can actually leverage data and we can use it for revenue. We can use it for these different things, different capabilities. If I could take 15% of all of my listings and put them on a special portal that drives consumers, right? Like, is that a revenue stream, right? If Zillow had to pay to get to the listings, if there's all these different dynamics that happen. So like, that's the way that I look at like the moves that are happening. I think they're fascinating. I think they're fun to watch. I think that we have a very resilient market. I don't think, everybody's like, it's going to go away. It's like, no, it's not. Brokers are going to be around forever. Agents are going to be around forever. They're going to look different. The market share is going to be different. Their competitors will be different. How they interact with consumers will be different. But like the industry is not by any means going away. I think that it has lots of opportunity because of these things going on. That's just
sure. No, it's I don't want to get into it because it just dropped and I don't know enough about it and whatnot. But ChatGPT and the ability to search for Zillow right built into ChatGPT. That's going to be interesting on how things change the market. So,
my opinion on it.
What's that? Yes.
Because I got an opinion about everything. 90% of my opinions are wrong. I don't know that Zillow has the right to use an MLS feed under an IDX feed to create derivative works that are placed on someone else's domain. Like, they don't control. This is, I mean, there's a couple of people that have already come out saying like, this is kind of like the Microsoft deal with Bing. This is kind of like there's like, can you take an IDX feed of other brokers' listings and create a derivative work off it? And in those MLS feeds, like, you don't necessarily. So I don't know how the response is going to happen there, but I would assume there's going to be a response to it because they don't own chat. Like, so anyways.
I've seen a couple interesting takes on LinkedIn for sure. And so
Yeah.
we'll see how that plays out. But yeah. So
yeah, I used to read comic books for humor in the past, and now there's LinkedIn. So it's good. It's like the soap opera world of the business industry. It's like people post without thinking sometimes. It's good. Yeah. It's good stuff. I love it.
Or after a couple of glasses of wine or something.
That's it. I didn't want to say that, but yeah.
Let's pivoting gears a little bit. Obviously you've been with a diverse group. Well versed in the real estate industry. You're now you mentioned a company called Local,
Yep.
and so how do you think a independent company like yourself, how does that compete when you see these types of consolidations and these types of moves by larger, entities? Like, what do you think is that secret to having these companies maintain and continue to thrive in those markets?
I think I'm very much a believer, and it's been proven over and over again, is if you provide true value, you'll always have a place in the space, right? In any space you're in, whether it's mortgage, whether it's real estate, whether what PropTech, it doesn't matter what it is. If you provide a solution that is true value to your consumer, then you'll always have a space. So like what is going on with real estate is like we got in this world of generalization and head shops where it's just a head count. We need a bunch of agents and they're very general and they've got okay tools and an okay offering and an okay, right? And where I see it going, like, is if you want to thrive in this industry, anybody can be mediocre, but if you want to thrive in this industry, you're going to have to specialize. You're going to have a niche that you are like, this is my thing. Like I list more houses on this lake I know this lake better than anybody else. This luxury category in this town, this is my baby. Like I'm the guy for this. And like someone comes to you and says, hey, will you sell a middle market property down in suburbia New York? Like, no, like that's not what I do. I'll refer it out to somebody else. So the specializations will become very hyper local, and they're gonna be very defined. And I think that this is an opportunity for the agents to shine, because as companies get bigger, they get more vanilla, and the agents shine is what happens. Like they have a unique proposition, they have a unique offering, they have a unique customer set, they have a unique these things. So like I'm a huge believer. It's like know your value, know how to articulate your value, and deliver on your value. Like that, if you can do that, nobody can replace you. Absolutely nobody can replace you.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great point. I think you've always kind of lived by having value as front and center, whether it's value that you as a broker is offering to your agents, or if you're an agent that you're offering to your consumers, or, if you even level up, that's what the franchisor is offering to their franchisees. And it's all about the value. And right now we're in the middle of MLSs. What are they providing and what are they doing to, stay relevant and to really stay, continue with a big chunk of their meaning, kind of pulled out. So
if you have 2 or 3 large mega brokers that are developed, like then that will be the question. Like that will be the real question that's going to be answered. Is like what is NAR's value? Not that I think NAR has value, but they're going to have very defined value. What is the association's value? What is the MLS's value? Right? Because if you have brokerage companies that start building private networks and they're holding data, like what does the MLS do? They can't share co-op commissions anymore. Like that's already been taken away, right? That's not part of the value offering they have. And then they're no longer the data repository. There's now like a subset of data. So it's like, where do they live? So they have to figure out what their value is, and they have to articulate their value, and they have to deliver on their value, just like anybody else. Like that is Kyle, that is the premise or the bedrock of a good company. Right? Like, and agents are a company, and brokerage companies are a company, and teams are a company, and PropTech is a company. Like, these are companies. So you have to know your value. You have to articulate your value. Otherwise, if your consumer doesn't understand what your value is, like, that you're not going to sell anything, right? And you have to deliver on it. Because if you don't deliver on it, eventually people are going to realize like, yeah, I got sold a bill of goods that didn't deliver and I'll never use them again, right? Like that's what happens. And eventually it comes back to bite you. It's like karma comes back and gets you. So like, that's my shtick.
No, I hear you. And a lot of the MLSs are doing some unique things. I mean, and there's a lot everyone's having a pivot. And I think that they're, so there's some cool things coming out of the forcing mechanism of change and, all of the things that go along with that to provide stuff. I think wrapping it up, this is PropTech Pulse, and you as a someone who's been, I think you were early on Loop and some other systems. I know you've used some of our back office tools in the past and brokerage and things. But where do you see technology going in the future? And both from a local level, but also just in the broker sphere. Especially with the AI noise that's happening. That there's some usage, but there's also other things going on. And you as being a CSO of a technology company and some others, like where do you think that's going?
I think there's going to be massive efficiencies that's going to happen in companies due to AI. Like intelligent companies are using AI to create great efficiencies on the back end, behind the scenes, because it's a lot of the AI is not consumer facing ready. It's not ready to interact with the consumer. Like I covet that relationship with the consumer. Like I think it's very, very important. So I'm a little more reserved as to I want AI just calling everybody and doing all these things. But the back end, the efficiencies, the decisions with big data and stuff like that. So as we move into this big data world, we're going to have to figure out revenue streams for big data and stuff like that. And AI will play a significant role in that. And I think the companies are going to have to run smarter, and they're going to have to run more of a business than just a relationship. Hey, I'm just going to get a bunch of agents together and it's going to work out somehow. So, I'm not going to hire every agent. I'm going to have agents that align with what I'm doing. And we're going to have this value set that's very clear, and we're going to deliver on it as a team. And we're going to leverage AI to actually, figure out how can I leverage my people to put them in the most efficient, productive role, and leverage AI to remove the daily tasks and the data spreadsheet things that are going on. Yeah. I've got a proposal for you. I think that we should start a petition to bring DPN back. I think that we should, we can take over the world with DPN. I mean, a DOS-driven system, the green screens,
Hey, you know what? There was a lot of data in there, and there's a
lot of data in there, man.
Good deal. Well, Craig, it's been a pleasure. Appreciate it. Live from Atlanta Airport. Thank you for joining today.
I'm in Phoenix right now. I'm headed to Atlanta. So this is Phoenix, man.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks a lot. Take it easy, Craig.
All right, brother. Have a good day.
That's our pulse for today.
Keep innovating.
Keep implementing.
And keep moving real estate forward.